Prince Loyd, a weak magician, is killed in front of everyone because his magic incarnated and becomes God. Anime begins with our hero, who is suffering a lot in front of some nobles who laugh at his situation, and the noble in question says he will give him a gift telling him to cast a spell before his death. But the spell he casts is ridiculously weak and slow, not causing the slightest damage to the noble. So everyone starts laughing at the boy's situation, so that Royal Goon fires his spell to burn the boy to death, but instead of feeling despair and anger, our hero was enjoying the torment because he always desired to have this type of power, but with such a heavy wish he perished into the air and then woke up in another world. He see lots of girls, but bro felt threatened and thought he should defend himself and made a spectacular show of overpower. He was born as the 7th prince of the Salem Kingdom, Prince Loyd, so the whole capital celebrate, while the maids in charge of him felt their lives flashing out. Then a few years passed out and Loyd grows up. The kingdom was peaceful and prosperous, but the maids were having a hard time finding their little troublemaker. He looks like a girl. But Loyd told the old man to stay silent and pretend they never saw him. The old dude wanted to take Loyd for hunting, but he had already slipped out of there. But one of them asked if it was important to gain connection with the youngest, who has the smallest chance of getting the crown. But the old man told his underling that Loyd is a magic prodigy who started learning spells right after his birth, and even refused to get nursing from his mother like a true gentleman. Even he blast a fire when he was born. They thought Loyd is a father of sorcery, but in reality he was just a commoner who was reborn as the 7th prince. He has his memories from his previous life, so he hunt to get knowledge about magic. But just as he picked his poison, his maid waifu found him and took his book. She's Silpha, and she's not just a caretaker, but she's also a teacher for Loyd. She teaches the guy swordsmanship. And even as a kid, Loyd was keeping up with her. Loyd thought it's useless since he's not in the run for succession, but as a royalty, Silpha told him it's his duty as a royal to be good with a sword as well. So Loyd thought of showing off to get out of her lessons with precision. He defends against Silpha with the same move that made her happy. But Loyd knew Silpha was holding back quite a bit, and more so Loyd was using control-type magic to direct the same attack she threw at him, which means cheating. But Silpha's swordsmanship was truly splendid, and he can copy her moves but can't copy a grown-up body's advantages, so he decided to try out something to cheat. He grew the sword size, made his arm stronger, and finally levitated himself for height. He jumps in again and started even matching up to her. Both round out equally, and Loyd knew if Silpha fight her mirror image, just a bit of improvised attack should be enough to catch her. But Silpha knew all along he was cheating and beats him with a smooth killer move down to the ground. She knew Loyd used magic to fill in the gap, which makes her even more happy. She noticed Loyd use 2 spells at once, a difficult task even for court mages, so Loyd descended. Then at night he saw the underground way and used invisible magic to pass through the guards, and apparently the door was sealed by the 10 most powerful mages. But Loyd broke the seal like it was a kid's play for him, and he saw his heaven in front of him and dives into the books of magic. But the book demon just woke up to intimidate Loyd. Thinking he's a kid, he tries to lure Loyd to unseal him, and in return he promised to give out golds. But Loyd saw through his empty promises that gold were of such low quality. Besides, Loyd planned to replace the seal and never planned to release him in the first place. So demon threw in ancient magic knowledge as well, now that is called the perfect bribe for a magic junkie. And now Loyd unsealed the demon with the magic key, and after coming out of that book he attacked Loyd instantly to get rid of the nuisance. But the kid had already made a barrier, so demon Grimoire tried to attack him again and again, and threw fire at him one after another, but it had no effect at all. Loyd had analyzed the properties of that magic and tried it out. It burned down his finger, and even though it was painful, it made him excited to try out more magic. Their demon made double head to double his power. He synchronized his 2 spells using at once with many formula and flow of mana. He gets excited, he wants to learn more magic from him, so Grimoire tried to run out. but the barrier had already been deployed because they were under the royal castle. Grimoire was trapped, and Loyd created many other barriers and cast a complete annihilation spell so that took care of the demon. But he survived somehow, so Loyd first restored the whole underground library in a flash, and Grimoire survived because demons can't die by magic. So Loyd was curious, but Grimoire knew he has power of a god. So he pledged his loyalty to Loyd, but his appearance was a problem, so Grimoire changed it to a cute little goat to charm Loyd, and he told Grimoire to stick close to him, and while doing so he feels the bottomless pit of mana Loyd possesses, so messing with him is out of the question. But then his second brother comes to the library to meet Loyd, so Loyd tells Grimoire to hide, and there Albert walks, and he invited Loyd to a shooting ground and used fire spell to shoot the targets. Everyone was impressed by his precision, and that's why Albert was expected to be the next candidate for King's throne. So now it's Loyd's turn to shine, but he wants to hide his powers to avoid power struggles, so he used a fire, then rotated it in speed and hits the target barely with a curve spell, and it's much harder than normal spell, and no one thought Loyd hit all of the target, but Loyd doesn't care about the criticism. But then Albert goes off. After that he got a wild idea to use Grimoire and his double incantation to mix human and demon spell, and Grimoire was freaking out because this magic freak is about to pull something impossible again. He absorbed Grimoire, which was impossible from the start. He syncs up with Grimoire, and there he tries to synchronize his magic with Loyd. But when Grimoire saw the terrifically huge calculated space of incantation, demon got his eyes ball out, and Loyd manipulated and exchanged his mouth with Grimoire. It was the way to recite two types of spell, and the huge chunk of energy started get submerged into one. A demon himself was getting scared by the little monster in human skin. And there Loyd got a success. Loyd got the urge to shoot the spell, so he shoots it into the sky, and while he makes that miracle, followers of Albert asks him why he's getting along with Loyd. They thinks he's useless, but Albert knew Loyd hit his target fair and square, so getting Loyd on his side will be helpful. But then suddenly Loyd made a hole in reality itself. It was a big mess up, so he took back his spell immediately. He is truly a monster. So the next day the hole was featured in the newspaper, and no one had a clue who did it, but Loyd noticed the rank adventurer and the news of them clearing dungeons, so Kid thought of going to one. For that he created a replica from Akron with a perfect body. But it's still hard to escape Silpha's eyes. This one time Silpha came to Loyd and noticed he grew 7 mm tall. She thinks about something else. She has waifu eye for Loyd, but Loyd had a plan and escaped. The next day he had Grimoire possessed that body and could talk through telepathy. Loyd separated and merged Grimoire's souls to that copy, and Grimoire could see Loyd with one eye, and he has to keep a perfect act around her. But suddenly he realized he has control over this body. But there Loyd tells him he's glad that he got Grimoire, as is familiar. Those words made the demon cry, but he acts as if nothing happened. So Loyd left the castle, but didn't know where dungeon was, and there he saw a bubblegum girl was fighting with monsters. Her power was kicking the heck out of her opponent. And Loyd knew there are some foreign countries that uses Kai instead of mana throughout their body, and the girl knew Loyd was watching and called him out. Loyd wants to talk, but Grimoire reminds him he's the 7th prince of Salem Kingdom. Getting no response, Tao thought it's an enemy, but when she saw the guy she falls flat. Loyd created a mix imitation of his, and Albert gets young. She's 18, and she had a hard time finding a man, but now her springtime has come to end with this cutie. And Loyd still had intention of getting to the dungeon, so as a rank adventurer, he takes him there. She tries to impress Loyd, but he was busy snatching up loots. Then moving ahead, Loyd asks Tao about Kai attacks, and it gets into a nice talk. So Tao tells him that Kai is a sort of breathing technique, and it gives a destructive powers to the user. But there Loyd was giving it a shot, and Tao was trying to impress the guy, but she noticed Loyd was breathing heavily and his lungs get out. Loyd imitated Kai training just by listening, and Tao freaked out, but Loyd felt the surge of new power in him, so Tao offers a helping hand to Loyd to learn Kai breathing. His smiling face makes her heart flatter, And in the dungeon, our duo cleared the dungeon boss, and now they could get the treasure, and Loyd learns that chest quests could only open when the dungeon boss is beaten there. He was getting used to the Kai breathing, and Tao felt like she hit the jackpot for a life partner. But when she tried to open the box, a trap got activated. Loyd saved Tao in instant time, but when they defeated the boss, a hidden boss appeared, a lick. But at the same time, Silpha came to Loyd, and now Grim is about to have a rough time, but Loyd was in the dungeon preparing to fight off that lick. But Tao tells Loyd not to worry and just leave. She sends Loyd flying away from there to save his life. Tao was confused because a low-level dungeon shouldn't have an S-rank boss, because even a rank adventurers could barely defeat it, so she wants to buy some time so Loyd can make it out alive. Bro was flying outside wondering why Tao sent him out. He wanted to learn more about Kai from her, so he used his shield to stop himself on his way. He asks Grim if he should return back or not, but Grim was in trouble and tells to Loyd to get back home quickly, but Tao was fighting to death with that lick. She knew she couldn't win, and their lick spoke up. He knew Tao was using Kai. Because he ate a few people like her, that was enough to make her go nuts. But Lick was more surprised by Loyd because he had saved Tao from his attack. Loyd was a peculiar case because he learned Kai techniques from her when other people considered Kai to be low-level techniques. Loyd learned it with enthusiasm, so she again gains confidence by believing on her Kai martial arts. Like Loyd did, she cracked open the light's barrier with Kai Blast. But she reached her limit with that. It was the end of her, and Lick thinks his little finger has more power than her. All out she attack. But no worries, Loyd stepped in right on time and saved Toe from blades. He was on fire to have a bombing fight. It was written all over his face, and he used Kai breathing. Suddenly Loyd started to mix his Kai and magic together. While the Lick kept attacking him, he takes a deeper breath to use more air for his Kai, but the barrier was getting in his way. So he shattered it. Lick thought he did it, but Loyd just wants to get more air for himself to use Kai and magic combined. He molded the two different powers into one, and after a success he attacks and cuts through the Lick's magic blade. So for the second time he makes it thinner to extend its range and keeps up the attack with it. Loyd was enjoying all of the moment while Lick was getting overpowered by Loyd. Slowly Loyd was getting his blades thinner and thinner, and Lick made a barrier, yet it cuts him right through it. With it, the boss was beat. But the treasure they got was Junkie Knife as a reward. But the dungeon started to break down now that the boss is gone, so Loyd got an idea. He figured out the chest was the core of dungeon, which absorbed magic from magic item of adventurer who fails, and when dungeon gets beaten it offers a magic item to save the core to run away and collect magic power again to grow back. So Loyd managed to get a piece of its core outside, and the dungeon shrunk into the ground for the time being. There Toa was thinking Loyd used Kai in fight because that Lick was mocking her, but Loyd crushed her hopes because he thought it's fun there. He remembers about Grim and took off, and Tao lost the chance to ask for his contact. Then he gets back to the castle and saw Grim was beaten like a punching bag by Silpha. Grim obviously didn't know swordsmanship, and Silpha thought Loyd forgot swordsmanship, so she goes hard to teach him from square one. And this was the result. His pride as a demon was crushed. Poor Grim. But after he cried his heart out, Loyd showed him that dagger. He knew it was a treasure in disguise. He cut the enchantment done by Mage Master. It was a boost powers. The enchantment was infused with mana essence, so Loyd analyzed the properties of the essence and saw it takes 3 ingredients to make it. The last was made from Harati, made from monster core, but their dungeon core could come in handy then. For the next 2 ingredients, Loyd goes to his father and asks for a bag of silver coin. King surely loves Loyd, and he mixed the silver. Then he did tough training with Silpha. Loyd could get oil if he defeats Silpha. But still he was lost in the end. With this Loyd lost his chance, but surprisingly Silpha gave him the oil even though she won. Because the other day she was sad that Loyd performed so badly, but now she's happy that he's back to his full strength again. So Silpha thought Loyd would become an excellent knight in the future. There Loyd slips out, and now all the ingredients are mixed. But for the weapons he asked Albert for some spare weapons. He's a doting brother, so he asked his knights to give up all of their weapons on their hand. They can't disobey, so the weapons were piled up. One knight was sad. because he just bought a new sword, and now he has to give it up. They didn't believe they would get their weapons back, because enchanting is hard, so Grim was cheering up Loyd, and he started making the enchantments. He was on full raging mode, but one wrong move and the weapons gets broken, so they tried many times and crushed many swords in their attempt, and at the end he made a few successful cases and told Albert that out of 120 he created 70 successful enchanted swords. He actually had 80 success, but Loyd tried to enchant double layer and lost those 10 swords. A top grade enchanter has a 10% success rate of enchantment, and Loyd was even beyond that. A knight didn't believe in Loyd that he enchanted his sword, but the moment he puts his sword in his sheath, that sheath got sliced in two. Albert's sword also survived the test, and Loyd wanted to see his mana enchanted weapons at work, so Albert thought of going for some monster hunting with Loyd, and Silpha joins Albert to go for a monster hunting. Let Silpha accompany them, for which she was grateful to him. Albert knew Silpha is Loyd's teacher and bodyguard, so he guessed Silpha might miss him, and Albert was right by seeing Silpha that happy, so he asked Silpha if she has feelings for Loyd. And Silpha warned Albert for his words, but there she sensed there's an ambush planned by monsters, and Loyd already knew that Kai breathing it makes a search area where he could sense anything. Then their knights were slashing those monsters like butter with the enchanted swords. It was so sharp even knights got scared, and Albert started praising Lord Lyd for his good work, and told everyone that they were wrong judging Loyd for his age, but Silpha already beat mostly everyone on her own. Then one of the monster targets the carriage, and Ta dropped in and kicked the monster off. She got here as she sensed a hot guy here, so Loyd was trying to hide his identity, but Ta was sure she heard Albert's voice from the back. She saw some resemblance of Albert and Loyd, but Silpha wanted Ta to make some distance from Loyd, and there the waifu begins to get angry at each other, so Albert puts out the fire between them, and he lets Ta join them because she could sense monster more clearly, and after that she learned he's the prince and apologized for rudess. But she was still searching for the hot guy she sensed, and the guy was hiding from her. He entered his tent and saw that dressed there. Albert tells Loyd that Silpha has changed since she started teaching him, and their knight were still enjoying the cat fight, and Albert knew and tells to Loyd that Silpha is in love with him, but still a friendly advice from him. Albert warns Loyd of relationship with women from personal experience. Then the girls saw the hungry guys were gawking at them, so they beats them up first. Then Silpha got dressed, and Tao tells them she was here to renovate the shrine, so Silpha wants her to get lost and do some work, but Loyd and Silpha sense something, and a monster attacked them. It was a bear wolf, so Loyd steps to the very back, and the wolf starts his attack. But their grimoire was thinking something while others were fighting with that wolf. There Albert used his magic sword and defeated the wolf. He was amazed with the power output, because even his sword was enchanted by Loyd, had enchanted some extra spells in his sword. But their grimoire was sure he knew that a demon was sealed in that shrine. Then suddenly that half-cooked wolf got back up again like a zombie, and the reason was actually resting in his mouth. It was a demon who wants to mess around because he got free from that shrine. After many years he called for a monster horde to attack them. Knights slash them up, but they can't die and regenerates easily now. That was pain for sure. And Gore tells Loyd that demon was controlling them, so Loyd asked Gore about it, and he tells him that the demon is transmuting his mana to control them, and more so he supplies his mana to let them regenerate, so Loyd's intention were clear. He want to learn it right now. While others were in trouble there, the demon was making fun of all of them, but mostly he insulted Loyd, and Silpha got pissed off hearing this. Her presence was dominating that all of them stopped their fight, and that ignorant demon was still up with his insulting remarks. Even other monster were scared to move an inch, so the boss lady is ticked off and got ready for cleaning there. The demon was sure no one can kill his minions, but Silpha tells him to shut up because he stinks like a gutter. That was something, so the demon attacked her, but just in a flash Silpha had already cut down its legs even before it jumped. So the demon focuses his mana on Beowulf, and his control got loose on other monsters. Albert saw that, and told Silpha to keep injuring that guy, but Silpha was already planning to do that. Then aside from them, Gore started to teach Loyd about transmuting his mana, and told Loyd to shape the mana and color it, and then include a scent step by step. But Kid already did everything on a single go that even demons couldn't do, so they started to sniff that scent. While Silpha kept protecting Loyd there, she borrowed a knight's sword, and she got on Cloud N holding Loyd's enchanted sword, so the demon began to spew nonsense about Loyd again, and Silpha became a demon herself. The Beowulf bit her whole, but she was so angry that she slashed the monster from the inside, and used a sword skill from the House of Langle to come out like a goddess. She cleared out that Beowulf and brought the rat outside with her demon-like skills. She was like the most badass waifu in that moment, and everyone knew one thing: never mess with this girl on any occasion. Then Loyd made his mana look like Celis, and she was ready to cut down that demon with her master's sword.
And even Silpha fell to that fog. Patsu the demon was sealed off for over 100 years. So now the demon turned the tables, and Silpha took a major hit. She could barely keep. Tao came in to help her out, but Silpha was still putting up a brave front. She wanted Tao to take Loyd and run away somewhere safe. The demon admitted that Silpha was something because everyone fell to his evil fog. Silpha was strong enough to endure it until this moment. But Tao was a different case. She wasn't falling for his trick. So the demon realized she was using a different breathing method to prevent taking MMA in, so he wanted to make Tao into his minion as well. Tao freaked out and punched him hard in the face. She says she only has eyes for hot guys, so she doesn't want to be on his team. She made a huge chi blast to get free, but a monster got her in the end. The demon said hot guys of her kind are useless, who can't even get up, while he and his kind are fit and fine. There, Patsu began to release his mana to make her join his minions list, but Loyd was freely playing in the water. He heard that PSU planned to make Silpha his slave to toy with her, and he had killed the parents of those beasts and inserted his miasma into the cubs to make them think he's their parent. But Loyd heard all of his evil deeds, but Patsu couldn't understand why Loyd was unfazed. But Loyd himself doesn't know. Then Patsu realized Grim was a demon and thought Grim was protecting the kid and made that toy-type appearance, which is a disgrace to a demon. Grim had thought to give him advice, but it seems he should let him experience the same thing he had felt. Their monster attacked Loyd, but he started to use mana transmission. He made it extra warm and kind of released the control of that demon. Grim was so proud to see Loyd learn this spell. And there, Loyd told the dog to throw up. Tao was now safe, and Demon Patsu still tried his luck, but Grim told him that those monsters now know what he had done to them and their parents, so they attacked Patsu from every angle. But he still beat up those beasts and stumped them brutally. Patsu threatened Loyd, but Loyd and Grim were like, "What kind of nonsense is he spouting?" Loyd remembered that a demon can't die by any sort of magic. And there, Patsu showed his full power because he's not giving his mana to any beast. It spoils the whole area. But Loyd found it interesting that demons don't die, but still, there must be a limit to their intake, and Loyd wanted to find it out. Then after Loyd released his mana, Patsu felt how screwed he was. Usually, Loyd restrains himself from ever leaking his true power, and Grim knew this fact very well, that no demons or their power could withstand Loyd. Loyd expressed his gratitude for being his test subject, because now he could use all his spells and powers to his heart's content. He is totally terrifying, and even Pokemon knew running was the best option, or else Loyd would put him in a cage, and he would never come out of it. Loyd started to make barriers non-stop to catch the rat, and Patsu was still speedy enough to dodge all of it. He couldn't even get a moment to take a breath, and Loyd could make 20 barriers at a time, but Grim could increase the numbers, so Grim got into his body, and both of the duo made a terrifying reach to get Patsu. They made a dimensional cage and trapped Patsu in it. There, Loyd observed that many monsters look different from their natural appearance, which could only mean one thing: the Chira experiment. So Patsu lost his mind and tried to bargain, but Loyd kept chanting his spell, and PSU was going crazy from the suspense. And there, Loyd had completed his spell and cast 240 spells per minute. Now that's a true monster, and he wanted to keep it up for 30 minutes, but just 5 minutes was enough to kill Patsu. So the theory got proven that magic works on demons, but on a large or largest scale. Patsu couldn't believe that a kid killed him, and others were getting back up, so Loyd went off to cover everything up, and Grim gave advice to Patsu that sadistic nonsense won't make other people follow someone. Learn from Loyd. He does take interest in the things he likes to do, and that's why other people follow him. With this, the day came to an end, and everyone returned to the capital. Then the king praised Albert for beating the monster and the demon, but they had made up that Tao and Alberto had helped them defeat the monsters. So the king wanted to meet with them, but Loyd at that time made up that Alberto had gone that way. So Tao took off behind Alberto. Well, anyway, Albert gave credit to Loyd and asked the king to let Loyd join in on the fight for the throne. There would be more competition, but Albert wants the best for the kingdom. That said, he still didn't plan to lose to Loyd, but Loyd declined this because he has only one interest, which is magic research. He had brought back the wolf bear he met in the forest as it followed them, but Grim got jealous and became fluffy for attention as well. There, Sylpha came in to spend her time with Loyd, and the king's son has an interesting future ahead of him. After that, Loyd brought a bear wolf monster back as it seemed to get attached to him. But there was a problem with it. Shiru does everything Loyd commands it to do, but Shiru can't take difficult commands like rolling 3 times or something like that. So Loyd wants to know how to communicate with the wolf. Sylpha and Loyd were thinking about who the monster expert could be, and only one name came to mind. The 6th princess, Elise. She's an animal lover, and she loves Loyd way too much, to the point of kissing him. I think I hear the FBI knocking on the door for this. Her maid, Eris, scolds Elise for doing this, but she says she can't help it because Loyd is so cute. She recognizes at first glance that Loyd brought a bear wolf, and Sylpha was unsure she could help them at all. Loyd wanted to see one of her monsters, and Elise said there was one right behind them. Both Sylpha and Loyd never sensed it coming, and later they realized it's a high-tier monster. But Loyd never saw her giving any commands, and it still took Sylpha's hairband, which means Elise must have given a complex order. So he wants to learn it too. Elise agreed to teach him to communicate with animals, and the secret to that is love. She loves them, and they love her. So Eris thinks it's not clear if she's a genius or an animal attractor. Elise said anyone can do it with the power of love and sends her pet to them with her feelings. They got Sylpha and Eris. Sylpha thought there was nothing to learn here, but Loyd wanted to learn it badly. Sylpha thought Loyd was taking interest in love and imagined Loyd hugging her and showing his love for her, but that was still too early for the kid. Loyd was grasping that the way Elise was commanding the animals was that she uses mana to send her orders directly from the brain. She doesn't know it, but she connects with animals subconsciously. So Loyd should also share a mental image with Shiru like Elise. He tried it out on Shiru, and Shiru started to do exactly as Loyd commanded. That's a job well done, and Eris was impressed that Loyd started to imitate Elise in a way, but Elise does not share the same thought. She thinks love is the main ingredient to controlling animals, and Loyd agreed with her. Love is important, and that's how she gained her power, because they need empathy to share their mind, and love is important. Loyd's cuteness strikes 3 arrows in 3 maidens, and they jump onto him to love him. But that love turns into a mess because Elise was still connected with the animals. Thanks to that, Loyd learned to control the animals. Now Sylpha tells him about his training session, but Albert comes and wants to take Loyd with him for today. Loyd was on Albert's side, and he brought a visitor, the 4th prince, Dean. They went over to a secluded smithy, and Dean came over after hearing that Loyd could enchant a weapon, but he couldn't believe it unless he saw it with his own eyes. Dean is a smith and traveled to Baron, a nation known for smithing. When he was only 10 years old, so he's used to enchanted weapons. So Loyd started to do this job, and Dean still couldn't believe that Loyd could enchant a spellbound sword, but Loyd did his job instantly, and Dean lost his mind. Even an amateur could tell that Loyd had made one heck of an enchanted sword with many layers of enchantment. Dean realized he was wrong, and now he wants Loyd's help to achieve his dream. He wants to make the ultimate magic sword, and the way to create this one was different. They enchant the metal while forging at the same time, and it takes an enchanter and smith's joint effort to make it. He dreamed that everyone could use magic while wielding his magic sword. So Loyd was on board to make it with him because it's a unique and never before heard of method. Loyd asked about the elements to use in the sword, and Dean said he wanted a fire sword. A magic sword could hold 2 enchantments, and Loyd prepared it instantly. He tried to apply it, but it broke off. He thought it was too little and should be made into 4 parts, so they tried it out again and failed again and again. Even Sylpha dropped in to help out, and Loyd was confused as to why it wasn't working while he did the same with Albert's magic sword. So Grim saw him in trouble and checked out the mana essence, where Dean himself said he brought the cheap mana essence, and this was the reason for failure. It barely had any H-hide. So Sylpha suggested hitting the dungeon to find a monster core to make it. She already took permission from the king to go there, and they hit the guild. They came over to register, and Sylpha said it was fine to write their real information for registration. Then Loyd had to go through a magic test, but if he did, it would surely blast the testing crystal and expose his power. So he compressed his magic power to a dangerous point of 1%, and their magic crystal showed he's at E rank at best, and others started laughing at him. but his magic is at A rank. Their receptionist thought Loyd was the most promising adventurer after Silver Blader, and no one liked it that she compared the kid with Silver Blader. Her reputation is something that even these goons admire. But Silpha wanted to go to the dungeon, but they needed a bank adventurer at least. So those goons started hitting on Silpha, and she showed them their place. Their receptionist told them she's the Silver Blader herself, but sadly after re-registration, her rank dropped 2 levels to gas rank. So Tao came in to lend them a hand. Silpha didn't care and started to leave, but Tao stopped them. Silpha remembered she flew off to find her lover boy, but Tao says she searched everywhere, even the unknown monster area, and never found him. So she wants to have tea time with Albert at least in exchange for this help. She was too hungry for a boyfriend. But anyway, they hit the dungeon, beat the monsters, and stole the core of the dungeon. Verdian learns that war is coming up, so he wanted them to wait a bit until he finished the sword, but they can't wait as the situation is urgent. And their Loyd comes in with the core, and they finally made their first complete product. They tested it out, and the sword turned out to be overkill. So Loyd thought of holding back with other works, and after completing many other swords, he wanted to have a good night's sleep.
Later that night, someone infiltrates the castle, even slipping past his monster pet's detection. Loyd comes out to confront the intruder and creates a shield to prevent her from escaping. However, she throws off her cover, and poison begins to radiate from her body. Loyd tries to purify it, but fails, realizing that she is using mana transfusion to control the poison, a rare innate talent. Her name is Ren, and she has been radiating poison since birth. She uses this ability to break the shield and tells Loyd he won't die from just a little poison before running off. Grim then arrives, worried for Loyd, but he is using healing breathing to heal himself. If he could move, he could have stopped her, but Loyd plans to let her lead him to her hideout. Silpha had told him at the guild that there is a group known as the Assassin Guild, famous for taking shady tasks. They have 6 members, all with bounties on their heads, but they are quite skilled at hiding, and each of them has special abilities. Loyd tracks Ren as she moves and follows her. Silpha arrives after he has left. Meanwhile, Ren meets her partners and informs them that the kingdom is making magic swords in large numbers. When asked why she didn't kill the one who caught her, Ren explains that it was just a kid, but she at least brought back information. The big guy reminds Ren not to behave like Jade, who is long gone. At this point, Loyd is found by Talia, and Ren can't believe he is still moving. The big guy realizes that the kid is the 7th prince, and rumors say the 7th prince acts weak, but is actually powerful. Now everyone prepares to take him down. Loyd lowers his barrier to get a sample of their power. He easily fends off an attack from a martial arts guy whose special ability makes him flexible as rubber. He is known as the Rubber Blighted. However, someone sneaks behind Loyd and immobilizes him with words. His name is Crow, and his words contain mana, making him the Curse Blighted. Loyd dodges a punch from the big guy, but his power makes his body sticky with mana. Even so, Loyd manages to free himself, and then Talia, the big sister, takes the opportunity to attack. Her swings are futile, so she stabs herself, causing the injury to be reflected onto Loyd as well. Talia has the ability to share her damages with whoever she lays her eyes on, which makes the fight even more exciting. However, Loyd's silence and calm demeanor make Talia think he's afraid. Loyd heals himself, which also heals Talia, and then he enhances his clothes, turning them into a blade while copying Silpha's swordsmanship techniques. Gallo, one of the enemies, recognizes the moves as those of the Silver Blader. Loyd charges head-on, and they feel fear instantly. They try to escape, but Loyd captures the Rubber Blighted. Gallo and Crow then surround him, but Loyd pulls back, and Gallo takes the cursed words, being thrown back with Talia. Loyd then captures Crow. Meanwhile, Talia's clothes get stuck to Gallo, tearing off because Gallo didn't notice her. Despite their powers, Loyd is interested in feeling pain, even enjoying getting injured as he hits her hard. Eventually, only Ren remains after Loyd defeats Gallo. Loyd calls for a fight with Ren, but Gallo stops him, explaining that Ren cannot control her power, and if she fights, everyone could be poisoned. Everyone there has no control over their powers, making them outcasts. Hearing this, Loyd slaps the back of Gallo, and Ren thinks Loyd has injured him badly. However, Loyd actually helps him, enabling Gallo to control his mana. Loyd then engraves a mark on everyone, allowing them to use their powers freely without losing control. Crow can now speak, and Talia can now see someone without hurting them. Ren also stops leaking poison, though she doesn't admit she's happy. Talia gives Loyd one of Ren's clothes as a token of gratitude, which Ren doesn't like, but Talia insists they owe him everything. Ren still thinks Loyd is an enemy because he snuck into their hideout and is making weapons of war. Grimm tells her that Loyd made those weapons for fun, not for war. But Ren finds it suspicious that a normal prince would make weapons and sneak into an assassin's hideout. It's also abnormal for a goat to fly, which Gallo considers an insult. Gallo then wants to explain their past to Loyd, and the others have no objections. However, Loyd isn't interested in their past, but in their leader's teleportation powers. Their leader, Jade, randomly teleports because he can't control his own powers. He had returned from the desert and announced his plan to create an assassin guild to take on shady jobs, leaving a coin behind to let others know of their existence. This way, one day, they wouldn't have to hide anymore. Then, Jade randomly teleported away again. This is how the Assassin Guild was formed. Later, they receive news that the Lord of Lest is preparing for war, and a message arrives. Some time passes, and Silpha tracks Loyd to where he left a message on the wall. She shows the message to Albert, which states that Loyd is going off to meet the Lord of Lest with the Assassin Guild. It might seem that they kidnapped Loyd, so Jen tells Albert that he can't start a war based on this situation. Albert, however, thinks they should find a peaceful way to deal with Lest. But when Silpha shows Loyd's sticky clothes, Albert and Silpha jump to the conclusion that something perverted must have happened to Loyd, prompting them to consider war. Meanwhile, Loyd is heading to the Lord's territory.
Now, in episode 8, the letter had the Assassin Guild's mark, which meant it was from Jade, who was alive after all. He wrote that he had become the Lord of Lordis and invited them there so they could live with him. Gallo kneeled and promised to repay Loyd for his help. Ren asked Loyd to apply the same mark to Jade, but the letter contained a precise location, suggesting Jade could already control his powers. This raised doubts about whether Jade had been lying, but Ren believed he must have learned to control them. Loyd wanted to go with them to learn teleportation, though it could be a trap. Loyd reassured Ren not to worry and just relax. Ren began to develop feelings for Loyd as they traveled together. However, none of them could keep up with fast travel, so Loyd decided to take a break for their sake. Ren went off to hunt something to impress Loyd. Ren had grown up in the forest after accidentally killing her parents. Jade had found her and brought her to the hideout. Back then, her body emitted poison when exposed, but Jade took her in despite everyone else being against it. Jade's persistence led the others to create clothes for Ren to contain her poison. He became like a godfather to her and gave her a new life, making her view Jade as her big brother. This sentiment was shared by others in the guild. Later, Ren made something to eat, but it destroyed their appetite. They felt it couldn't be served to a prince, but Loyd started eating it, as he had consumed much worse in his previous life. After Loyd, the others also began eating it and enjoyed it. This reminded them of when Jade told them their bounties would be lifted soon, which made them rejoice. Jade then confessed that he was the son of Lordis's king, but his family only thought of war. Jade wanted to change them and gathered allies for support. Despite using them, no one cared because Jade gave them hope. He could have kept silent, but he confessed honestly. Jade later changed his mind and decided to settle things his way. He warned them that if the Assassin Guild killed nobles, their dream of freedom would be jeopardized. Although he wanted to live with them as family, the kingdom was starting a war, and Jade had to stop it. He asked them to keep the guild running, even if he died, but if he survived, he promised to create a land where the blighted could live freely. With that promise, he left. Now that he had contacted them again, they were happily on their way to Lest. Loyd fell asleep after the meal, but still had a powerful barrier on. Ren suggested they check out the manor first before putting Loyd in danger. They asked Grimm to stay behind, but if something happened to them, Grimm would be held responsible, so he joined them for scouting. When they arrived, everything seemed normal until a strange creature warmly welcomed them on behalf of the Assassin Guild. Jade had prepared a welcoming party for them, and soon he appeared. Everyone, especially Ren, was delighted to see him. However, the climax hit when Jade used Crow's cursed words ability to make them bow. It was all part of his plan to collect the blighted in their top condition. Strange creatures began drooling over them, particularly targeting Ren. Grimm tried to protect them, but was no match. He was knocked down near where Loyd was sleeping. Loyd woke up and heard the story. Meanwhile, the creatures revealed their true nature as demons from the Netherworld. The demon inside Jade had taken over his body because of Jade's teleportation powers. The demon, Geese Arm of the Netherworld, had slowly killed Jade from within, though Jade tried to resist. Jade cared deeply for his friends and had even attempted to kill himself to stop the demon. Despite Jade's efforts, the demon revived him just before death. Over time, Jade wore down and eventually died early. Now the demons wanted to consume his friends as well. Guise cruelly tormented Ren by reminding her that she had killed her own parents. However, when Guise saw the mark that Loyd had engraved on her, he questioned Ren about it. Ren resisted his order by biting her tongue, but Guise continued to command her using Crow's ability. Just then, Loyd arrived and cast a spell to eliminate all the creatures that had been enjoying the torment. The spell was so powerful that it opened a gateway to hell. Ren was relieved to see Loyd had come to save them. He first healed Ren and told the others to leave as they were after them. Garm was one of the strongest demons alive, and he ordered his followers to catch the blighted people, threatening that their heads would roll if they failed. However, Loyd didn't let them leave, blasting firepower at them. Then Garm attacked Loyd, and his spell penetrated Loyd's barrier, forcing him to dodge. The attack hit another demon behind him. Loyd analyzed the spell and realized it had a killing curse effect, and Garm was mixing powers from Run, Crow, and the demon from before, all at once. On the other side, demons were chasing down the Assassin Guild. Garm looked down on those demons, as demons have their own ranking, and the ones out there were at the bottom. Grimm explained this and yelled that he was at the 3rd spot, but Garm was beyond ranking. He was a demon lord who could kill even 100 first-class demons. This time, even Loyd wouldn't be able to win against such an opponent. Even so, Loyd had no intention of backing down, and the same went for Garm. When the two monsters clashed, it became a show worth watching. The audience watching realized they were standing right in front of each other, so Babylon went to open the gate. Garm believed he was doing a favor for the blighted people by taking over them since they couldn't control their powers and were rejected by society. He thought he could bring out their full potential, so they should be happy to give their lives to him. Garm then displayed a monstrous show of power far beyond the blighted's abilities, pinning Loyd with several magic spears. Meanwhile, Gay Leon attacked the demon with his glue attack, and Crow used magic words to stun the demons for a bit, but they managed to escape. Talia used her link magic to inflict injuries that held them down. If the demons healed, Talia would heal too, providing a convenient way to stop them. Yet still, Gay Leon pushed Ren and Crow to save them and give them time to flee, sacrificing their lives so the three could live. Suddenly, magic fire rained down on the demons, and looking back, they saw Albert and the others arriving to save Loyd just in time. However, for these shady assassins, class comes first. Silpha openly threatened them to speak and spill everything, and Gay Leon informed them that Loyd was fighting at that moment. Ren wanted to tell the whole truth about who Loyd was fighting, but Babylon reminded her that Loyd had asked them to keep his powers a secret. With time running out, they tried to evade the situation with unconvincing information, so Albert pulled out Loyd's underwear, and Gay Leon remembered it was drenched in fluids. Alice saved Ren, as she knew Ren was telling the truth. Otherwise, her lesser Fenrir would have killed Ren already if she had malicious intent. Silpha set off to find Loyd, but Ren tried to stop her. However, an attack destroyed the bridge, and demons were making their way to the other side. Before getting cornered, they had to retreat to deal with them. The magic swords consumed mana from the wielder, so they wouldn't last long, and the demons just kept regenerating. Suddenly, Silpha fended off a deadly attack, and the speed of their clash was so fast that the assassins couldn't even see anything. The one who attacked was an 8th-class demon specialized in swordsmanship, trying to intimidate Silpha. But Silpha noticed he had poop on his head and insulted him back. On the other side, Babylon saved Albert from a sneak attack and told him the demons were just empty shells. If their bodies died, the demons would die with them. Albert heeded this advice, combining his magic with his magic sword to unleash a firebomb on the demons and incinerate them. Meanwhile, Silpha was going toe-to-toe with the demon in swordsmanship, a true sight to watch. The creators did a great job with the limited budget, making this action scene remarkable. Silpha took a slight hit, and the demon wanted to take over Silpha's body to steal her sword style. He attacked in Lourdes' style, as when he took over the body of a skilled swordsman, he inherited his swordsmanship. The man had trained hard his entire life and had a happy life, but now nothing remained. Silpha, however, had had enough and used the demon's style of attack right back at him. The demon was enraged, but Silpha was proud, noting that she didn't need to steal bodies to learn swordsmanship. This angered the demon further. Silpha then called out to Shiro and started searching for the sword he was carrying. Silpha was so powerful that the sword couldn't handle her strength, always bending under her mighty swings. So Loyd created a sword that could withstand her power, which made the little maid blush instantly. Loyd noticed that Silpha had always been holding back her powers, and Silpha hugged Loyd in happiness, grateful that he had been watching her so closely. Unlike last time, she wanted to show her full strength, so she prepared with one heck of an SL stance to kill the demon. In just the blink of an eye, she killed the demon and elegantly sheathed her sword. Meanwhile, Loyd was still in a fight with Geras Arm, the demon who had taken control of Jade's body after killing him. Before his death, Jade had tried to say something, but Geras Arm didn't notice it. While reading Jade's memories, Geras Arm learned that there were many blighted people out there, and what Jade feared most was war. Geras Arm wanted to wage history's bloodiest war. On the other side, then suddenly, the entire river in the surroundings was vaporized, and the root cause was the little protagonist, Loyd. He thought he had made a wrong move this time. A few minutes earlier, while dodging all the attacks, Loyd was thinking of a way to counter the mana spears, as they could easily pierce his barrier. They were fast and strong, and Loyd had to maintain the strongest mana barrier around him at all times. What was more annoying was the crow's cursed speech attack that slipped through the barriers, not to mention the teleport attacks. Loyd chanted the biggest fire spell with double incantation to hit Geras Arm, but as expected, the teleport ability saved him and the fire vaporized the entire river. Loyd used Chi to detect Geras Arm and managed to find him. Still, Grimm told him to move quickly, or Geras Arm would use teleportation to attack again. Loyd stayed still for a few seconds, and no attack came his way, revealing that teleportation requires knowledge of a precise location to work. Geras Arm had known where the assassin's hideout was and had been using his sight to target his attacks. So Loyd stopped for a while and Geras Arm didn't notice him. Loyd wanted to get close enough to stab him, but it was too risky. Meanwhile, Geras Arm was waiting for Loyd to attack, but Loyd sent an Earth clone for a large-scale attack. Geras Arm was amused that Loyd had actually landed a hit on him. Loyd attacked again, and Geras Arm thought he had killed the real one since it had a real magic sword, but then noticed the clones weren't disappearing. Geras Arm realized the Loyd he attacked was a doll, a fake, with a real sword, meaning the real one was still among the clones. The perfect spot for attacking would be from above, and Geras Arm was attacked right from the front. Loyd made a comedy out of him, shuffling the clones again and even creating more of them. Geras Arm still needed an accurate location to target, so he wondered who the real one was. Loyd, on the other hand, continued planning. Geras Arm decided to attack all the clones at once, hoping the real one would reveal himself, but that was yet another petty trick. Loyd used a barrier on his clone to confuse him, a neat trick. The massacre continued, and Geras Arm was getting excited to fight such a lowly creature as a 10-year-old human boy. Meanwhile, Loyd was moving closer for an attack, using concealment magic to hide his presence. Despite the danger, he had made a special magic sword for situations like this, which could take a spell and increase the wielder's power. It could also be analyzed. Loyd was figuring out the teleport attack, but Grimm thought Loyd should run while he still could. But knowing Loyd, he would never turn down a chance to learn new magic, which is why Grimm acknowledged him. Grimm decided to support him, and Loyd continued deciphering the teleport magic, learning new bounds of reality. I think Loyd finally understood what Jade's message was. He showed up, and Geras Arm saw that Loyd had no barrier, thinking he had given up. Geras Arm asked why Loyd had fought until now, assuming he was broken from the inside, and asked him to join his side. Loyd tried to explain in a way that Geras Arm could understand about humans and their unyielding will and desire to become powerful. Then, in a flash, Loyd landed a clean hit in Geras Arm's gut using breathing techniques to tap into superhuman powers. Geras Arm realized that Loyd had hit him right as he teleported. Losing his composure, Geras Arm was infuriated, but Loyd sat there like he didn't care what came next. This got on Geras Arm's last nerve, but there was no use, as Loyd could easily track him wherever he teleported. It was an easy win for Loyd as he beat Geras Arm to a pulp. Then Loyd used an extreme heat ray and positioned Geras Arm just above the magma pool that Loyd had created. Falling into it would be fatal even for a Demon King. Geras Arm tried to escape, but was still beaten. Loyd reflected on how he always got lost in sorcery and wondered about the people who created such magic, whether they had dreams, if they were kind or fun. At the end, Loyd could only think about them. That's when he got Jade's message. Geras Arm was beaten and had no more cards to play. Loyd thought of ending the game, but Geras Arm revealed the difference between demons and humans. Demons can control all the mana from the atmosphere, making them invincible. That move looked serious, and the episode ended. Until then, take care.